Let me tell you guys about Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. Belly Up Sports is the premier, not your average website. Let's just go right into the nitty gritty. We'll go right into that relegation zone. In 20th place, we got Wolves with 2 points. 2 points. Yeah, they're definitely getting relegated. I don't know if there's honestly, that would be amazing.
No, look, man, Rob Edwards has some miracles in his locker, but this is not one. I know he was brought in as the manager to turn this ship around, and brother almost got close against Arsenal. I'll give him that. It might be the highlight of their season, potentially, only losing by one to top of the table Arsenal.
It makes you feel better. They scored.
They scored both goals, so there's that. Yeah, man, it's tough, bro. Honestly, I still have no idea why Rob Edwards accepted that role. He knew how bad this team was and where they were when he accepted it to come in, and I don't think there's any saving this club. They make it a little bit better. They may make the relegation zone more competitive, but yeah, bro, I think this one's done. The other two are probably more relevant conversations.
Yeah, and that score is 19th place Burnley with 10 points and 18th place West Ham United. A very interesting turn of events that West Ham has gone through. Like for you, is it just because the roster's getting gutted, or what do you feel was going on there at West Ham?
I just think you could blame some of that, right? They have lost their best players over the last 3-4 years. I mean, you kind of expect that to an extent, but I don't think it's an excuse. I mean, look at Crystal Palace and what Glasner's doing over there with that team. Those guys have been robbed by everybody, right? Arsenal's taken as a Munich has taken Bayern's taken Olise. That right there in and of itself, Zaha's left, and even Zaha in his time with Palace was immense, right? So you look at some of their best attacking talent, kind of leaving and them not skipping a beat. Somehow Palace still being even better this year than they were with some of their playmakers over the last 2 years. For that reason, I don't think you can give West Ham an excuse. The biggest fault they have is they just don't give anybody the time of day, bro. Like whether we're talking about Graham Potter, David Moyes moving on, and now they got Nuno Espirito Santo, who has a crazy task ahead of him. I still think they'll get out of the relegation zone. I'll be honest. I think I'm not really, me being a London club supporter, there's not a ton of love I have for West Ham, but at the same time, they feel too ingrained into what we know the Premier League to be. So I fully expect Nuno to work some magic. They're not crazy far behind the likes of Leeds, Forest, Brentford. There's a lot of time left. I expect them to find a way to get out, especially when you think about the competition they'll have back and forth with Leeds. Leeds had some crazy moments so far this season, but I think West Ham will find a way.
Yeah, I think the Prem, especially, it's really a dog eat dog league. Like anybody can really just ruin your season. And when you look at, before we get to the European competition size, like you mentioned, 17th is like not that far off from going into that relegation zone. But on the flip side, you can even argue like if things can turn around for Leeds, maybe they find their own run, maybe they add some pieces in that January transfer window, they can find themselves in a pretty good spot in Europe, obviously barring other things needs to happen, but still. So it's like kind of weirdly enough, like if you're Leeds, you're more than likely if you keep screwing up, you're gonna end up in the relegation zone. But if you can get some wins, you're not that far away from getting at least a Europa Conference League spot, which I can't guarantee you the Europa Conference League spot because they keep changing it every year because if you guys know UEFA, there's the coefficient, or I hate that I sound like I have to be a mathematician to talk about this, but they there's always a chance that there's going to be 5 Champions League spots in the Prem. I say there's a chance because obviously we've had also previous years where the Bundesliga got that 5th spot. We've seen La Liga get that 5th spot. So, but it seems a lot of people are pretty cocky that the Prem is probably going to be the league that gets that 5th one. And that just goes back to the UEFA coefficient, which obviously Prem is probably viewed as the better league when it comes to UEFA. Take that for a grain of salt. I'm not going to be that guy. But I get it. So
Yeah, I think it happens. The coefficient stuff, it changes year over year. I think, and that's something fans need to realize, bro. The Prem, sure. I've seen more Prem fans talk about Premier League in comparison to the rest of the European leagues more this season than I have in I don't know how many years. And sure, bro, as much as I love Arsenal, as much as I love the Prem, yes, hold your heads high, and yes, talk with chest when we talk about this league this season. I think there's so many years that I feel like we heard crickets on the front of these European coefficients that factor into who gets those spots. The best leagues will. So yeah, I mean this year Prem fans might be a little bit more than annoying, but at the same time, they've kind of been in the dark on that front for so long that at some point they were going to get the coefficient back.
yeah, exactly. So this is going into the European competition. It's going in with the thought that they get that fifth Champions League spot. So that's just how I'm approaching it. If you guys don't like it, once again, you can refer to the other phrase that I used earlier. So currently in seventh place with that Europa Conference League spot would be Liverpool with 26 points, which is also, you're going to hear this number pretty frequently, actually, for the next two teams. The Europa League spot, you got Manchester United with 26 points in sixth place. And in that fifth, maybe, Champions League spot, I'll put an asterisk on there just in case, is Crystal Palace with, you guessed it, 26 points. So like I said, things can drastically change throughout the season. Obviously, Liverpool is a really interesting story right now because of all the drama that, like, say what you want about Real Madrid. Which is that Jesus Christ, you already heard what we talked about Real Madrid, but I don't want to go back in there. Or going to get back in there. But yeah, I mean, Liverpool, obviously now everyone's talking about Arnie out after his debut season going as great as any debut season can go. You have Mohamed Salah, who is just very much not happy with his current situation. But in some sense, it's still Liverpool, right? Like, it's crazy that you go into a season where you're coming off of winning the Prem. You add guys like, Verts and Ekatike, you add Frimpong. You would think this team, you lose Alexander Arnold, but you gain a Frimpong. Like, you think that this team is just going to continue on, especially with the way Arne Slot had this team playing. What is it about this season for Liverpool that has now become kind of I guess, like a soap opera?
Um, Personally, bro, I think if I had to boil it down to one thing, I think this is honestly what I expected from Liverpool last season. I'll be completely honest. I expected there to be somewhat of a drop off after Klopp. I think the reason we didn't see a drop off after Klopp left and stepped down as manager was that Slot came in and didn't change anything. Didn't get a chance to sign a bunch of players that he wanted, had to work with the pieces he had. The pieces he had, frankly, were pretty damn good. I think for anybody who was following the Prem last season realizes that Liverpool, the last few seasons in this, era of Klopp Liverpool, where they weren't seen as being quite as good of a team as they were during the whole City Pool era, where it was just them two teams 4 or 5 seasons in a row just constantly going at it for the title. It was seen somewhat of a down couple seasons, but in both of those seasons, they were in title contention. So that team was good enough, legitimately, in the 2 years leading up to Slot to win another Premier League title. And it, again, just with the likes of Arsenal and City being who they are, and Arsenal finding a way to stay around until the very end, like it didn't work out for him that way. But when Klopp left, I expected this kind of drop off because that's natural for when a new manager comes in, has to work in new pieces, build his current players and new players around a brand new system, maybe move away from certain players like the Mo Salahs of the world, like the Virgil van Dijks of the world, or the Andy Robertsons of the world, who have to, take a somewhat of a backseat or be part of this new era in a way they weren't part of the previous era because of age or because of just the identity the new manager wants this team to have. So I expected all of that to just create some chaos for Liverpool. And if you told me, hey, they're sitting anywhere between fifth and eighth as part of this chaos that happened, okay, cool. Like to me, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just freaking everybody out now because we didn't get that. It got delayed by a year. He came in, changed nothing, and it turns out he had a championship team at his disposal from the get-go. But now we're seeing the transition, and now we're seeing the cracks, right? The issues kind of appear. But I'm not surprised by it. I think the fans are probably a little bit too impatient. Last season was probably too good for them from their perspective, and that's the bar that Arne Slot set for himself as a manager. So, it's a little bit unfortunate. I think with the whole Mo Salah thing, brother, I mean, again, in the age of social media and players having more power than ever, I feel like you could say whatever you want. I mean, most players do in this day and age. I've never seen more Pierce Morgan interviews than I've ever seen in my life up to this point, than in this era. But I will say that understanding all of that context, this is just the clearest sign that Slot, it can't really feel like a Slot team until he moves on from some of these legacy pieces that he had at his disposal when he came into Liverpool. I think the biggest ones being Virgil because of cracks we're seeing with him and his play, and Mo for the same reason, but because of the fact that he's just so outspoken and believes he deserves something as a legend of the club. And he is a legend. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not, but there isn't a single player that's bigger than the club. I watched Messi leave my club at Barcelona. I've seen other players seemingly get pushed out. Ronaldo didn't get a chance to leave United the way he wanted to. At the end of the day, you're not bigger than the institution, and I feel like we're seeing that now. So I expect more hurdles, more slight ups and downs, ebbs and flows. But I think what Liverpool's going through, if you remove the context that we have at this moment, it feels pretty natural for what a club should go through when they go through transition like this.
Yeah, and I mean, you say that, and once again, they're on the same point total as a potential Champions League spot. So I mean, like, it's not necessarily doom. Once again, if you're talking about having a shitty year and it equates to a European competition spot, which those mid-table sides, like, sign me up, because a shitty year for them is flirting with relegation. You can ask Everton. So like, on the other side of my of that Liverpool region, like, so I think for Liverpool it can be fixed. You do have that January transfer window. You said it right though. If things aren't working out, and I think I'll probably have said this already with Real Madrid, like, if you don't want to be here, there's the door. Like, go find you're gonna go to a club, maybe you fit well, or you're gonna realize the grass ain't always greener, and move on. And like you said, no one's gonna be ever bigger than the club, and I totally agree with that. I think that's, at that point, beating of a dead horse at this point for anybody that's anyone tells me, oh, you like Real Madrid, so you must be a Ronaldo fanboy. I was like, I can give a rat's ass about Cristiano Ronaldo at this point. Like, he's over there doing his thing with Al Nassr. At Juventus, I gave two shits about Cristiano Ronaldo. The only time I ever cared about him was when he was with Real Madrid, doing his thing. But now that he's gone, he can fuck off. To be honest, like, I've never been a Ronaldo guy. I told you the story where I just could not take Ronaldo seriously, which was when he got hit in the face and had an ice cube holding an ice cube. Still can't believe that happened. I wish I was making that up. I did not make this up. Maybe I was high. I can't tell you, but it's one of those things where you can remember something and you're just like, this really happened. And so,
yeah, bro. Yeah, I totally feel that. Totally feel that.
Like, I was like, I wish I made this up, but it's not. It's
real. It's real.
but once again, you're 26 points within. Actually, you're actually no points within that fifth place spot in the Champions League. And I'll just go ahead and run out the fourth place is Chelsea with 28 points, which I'm sure if people remembered when me and Edward were, or actually, yeah, was it me and Edward? I don't remember anymore. When we were previewing the Premier League, I actually said, you know what, Chelsea might be good.
They might be good. They might be good. I mean, we say that for like the last few seasons in a row, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I got way too into it from the FIFA Club World Cup, because I was like, I took a shot in the dark and I said, hey, you know what? This looks like a tournament that Chelsea could win. And of course, it's a tournament that Chelsea could win.
Who knew, man? Who knew?
Best home field advantage.
Apparently Hector did.
Okay, well, I mean, I ranked them at third, but it was funny because I was like, well, I mean, it is the U.S., so there is a lot of Chelsea fans. So,
yeah, that's fair enough, bro. Yeah, it is what it is, bro. One thing I'll mention before we go into the rest of the top four, though, one bold take that I think, or not even a bold take, is probably just something to watch out for, is I think the race between Palace and United will be super interesting for that last Champions League spot. I still feel like Liverpool would have more ups and downs to be had. I don't think the Mo Salah saga is over. I still think that there's issues they have to address. And again, not even just him. Verts is an issue. Alexander Isak is an issue. All this money they spent, those players not performing, that will continue to rear its head numerous times. I think mainly because Liverpool has multiple competitions to worry about. Palace and United do not. Palace has technically the EFL Cup, and if things go my way, they're going to be eliminated afterwards. They play Arsenal next. But I think if you put that cup aside, these two teams who are two, I would still say United's still a pretty good team, despite the obstacles that their manager puts in front of them with how he decides he wants to manage the game. I think those two teams have the most to go after right now. One competition to truly, truly focus on, and I don't know, man. In my mind, Glasner's the better manager. So I think it'll be just very, very interesting. United technically have the better players on paper in a number of areas, but I think for a number of reasons, I'm putting Sunderland aside because Sunderland. But I think those two will have to duke it out for that final spot.
No, yeah, I agree. I think it's funny because Manchester United, they were having talks about sacking Amarin, which I gotta say, stop roasting people for using a tactics board. I don't. What does that make fun? Why do you make fun of a guy for doing their job? Like, I mean,
Yeah, I have no problem with that, bro. I think yeah, that shit was funny because it was.
I mean,
He
the
could have been probably doing something else, but
the memes were
yeah,
great.
the memes were amazing. My favorite one was the weed trade table. That was
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
But I think my issue with Amorim and why I think he won't last is because he just seems too naive to coach in this league. I think a coach's how you measure a coach is not by how good their team is on paper, and the results they get on the pitch. I think you can buy teams in the age of modern football. It's more of I say buy teams, buy trophies at the end of the day. We've seen teams do it. But I think that you can buy all the talent in the world, but it's like how you adjust to what the opponents throw at you, how fluid you are, and how you think about the game. Just adjusting because football is so situational. And this idea of dying by the tactics that you implement is a terrible philosophy. If anything, you're just showing people you only have one way of winning football matches. And that's what concerned me about Slot with Liverpool in the beginning too, was that like he was like, hey, those interviews where he was like, oh, the reason we did so well today is because they didn't pressure us, in the back. Like they didn't press us high, so we actually got to play. We didn't have to do long balls. What you're actually doing is just giving every team a blueprint for how to beat you. That's what Amorim is doing without realizing it. He's just giving everybody a blueprint for how to beat him because he won't change up anything. So I don't know, man. Amorim is a meme in his own right, but like beyond that, there's just a lot of issues that United fans should have with how he approaches managing because bro, that's you can't. I understand structure and being rigid to an extent and getting the most out of your players, but yeah, bro. Sometimes if it's not working, you just gotta switch shit up and be okay doing that. Be okay at being uncomfortable, and I feel like he's just not.
no, yeah, I could definitely get that sentiment. I think especially Edward, who does like Manchester United, his whole thing is just like, all right, we let go Amarin, but who's out there? Who's really like,
We know who's out there. We know who's out there.
yeah.
Xavi Hernandez is waiting in the wind. And you know what, bro? I will say, as much as it would pain me to see Xavi coaching United, it just at least he can mix things up. At least he has a few different ways of playing the game. We saw that with Barca. I didn't agree with all of them when he was there, but shit, bro, if the missions win games, he knew how to do that. This guy won a league title with like 13 1-0 victories. Like, do it. I mean, that's the most anti-Barcelona way of playing ever. And shit, it got him a league title. I mean, bro, like I don't know. I think that there's other potential options out there. Hell, there's options in the Premier League that they could buy out right now. That would be a level up from Amorim.
Yeah, I could get that part. I would be intrigued because with Xavi, obviously culturally, I wonder if he would implement the same rules he made with Barcelona, with United, who probably should have those rules.
Probably.
Probably
So
should.
accountability wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, but rounding out Champions League, third place, Aston Villa with 33 points. That is interesting. I don't think anybody had that on their bingo card.
No.
Second place, Man City with 34 points. Also should point out Erling Haaland leading goal scorer with 17 goals right now on his tally. Probably a big reason for Man City's, I guess, turnaround. I don't want to say turnaround because, I mean, yes, they had a terrible season the previous year, or at least to their standard. And, they're just too good not to fail at some, in my opinion. And once again, it is Pep Guardiola, even though it's probably getting old saying that same crap with Man City. It's literally rinse and repeat at this point with Man City when it comes to saying those things. But of
Yeah.
course, currently on top of the league table, and I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx anything, but currently on top of the table is Arsenal with 36 points. Um, Jose, you've been here, you've been in this scenario before. Probably last time it was more of an insurmountable lead. The lead is a little bit tighter, but has Arsenal learned? Has this team learned from previous times that they've been in this scenario before?
I will say yes and no. Like, I say yes because, bro, there's no way you go through 3 straight years of that and not just finally understand collectively as a group what has to take place, not in the big games. And that's my issue with a lot of the pundits out there, the Paul Scholes, the Gary Nevilles, the all of those guys who are claiming like, hey, we're still seeing Arsenal not win the biggest games. That's why they're not going to get over the line. No, in fact, I will argue that that's never been the issue. I think Arsenal probably has the best record against the Big Six in the last half decade out of any team in the league, period. We've always been able to win the big games, at least recently. It's not that's not the issue. I think if the issue is winning against the teams that you should be beating, right? And when I say should be, I'm not talking about relegation candidates. I'm talking about the middle of the table. You know, the Fulhams, the West Hams. West Ham's a relegation spot now, but they're traditionally not. The Brightons of the world. Those clubs give Arsenal serious trouble every single time they play. And that leads me to the upcoming schedule, right? So when I say yes, we can win the league 1000% this year, but this stretch that we have coming up between at the time of recording, this coming weekend is Everton away. Then we have Palace in the Cup. That's whatever. It's a one-off game. We'll probably rest some players in that one, sure. But after that, Brighton, Villa, Bournemouth, Liverpool. Those games are going to decide the title, in my opinion. This is the stretch. Whether we're talking about 2 years ago when we dropped back-to-back games between Fulham and West Ham, other seasons like that, where you just feel like those missed points were what City needed to close the gap and then overtake us. I think all of the concentration has to be here. So I say yes, but to answer your question, yes, we can, but it will depend on this stretch of the season, which I'm hoping they've learned from past seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, equally, there's been 2 instances where I say no because the mentality of this team is in such an up and down state, right? When I watched this past weekend against Wolves, there was a moment at the end of the game where when we got the equalizer, it was Mosquera's own goal header. The whole team goes to celebrate. Declan Rice does not. In fact, he kind of looks pissed. He gets over there and he's trying to like everyone, Timber's shouting and screaming at the crowd, and Nkapie's doing the same thing. Odegaard is even getting into it, and it's Saka, same thing. And you see Declan, he's kind of just like what are we doing? Like he kind of like, guys, let's get back. Like, one, the game's not over. We didn't win this game outright, and then two, we should have won this game. We should have blown this team out. This team has 2 points collectively, and we're top of the table. This shouldn't have even been a contest. Right. So, and he knows, I think he knows deep down how poorly we played. So it was that game combined with the previous game's finish when we lost to Aston Villa 2-1. When the team fell, when Dia got that goal, you see the entire team just collapse at the end. Like it was the one thing they feared happening more than anything else, which was losing the game. And I think sometimes when you're chasing something you've never won, there was this really cool quote that Thierry Henry had recently, and a lot of fans didn't get it in the comments, but I think I understood it perfectly. He said, sometimes the fear of winning is greater than the fear of losing. And I would say that's 100% true with this team. They've never won it. They've been chasing it forever. And now that we're this close, you fear a misstep, even in games that you have full control over, even in games that you're completely running away with it. And you're the better team in because you just don't want to be in the same spot that you were last season. And to me, it's a fear of winning. You legitimately are scared of what could happen on your path to hoisting that trophy. And it slowly turns into this fear of losing. You're playing to not lose a game, aka the Wolves game where we're sitting back. When we're up 1-0 against Wolves at home, the last place team in the table, sitting back in the final few minutes of stoppage time, letting them cross and create the pressure as opposed to taking the game to them. It's
Hmm.
all of these things that lead me to believe that there's a little bit of doubt creeping in. But with all of this said, this team needs a reset in terms of at this moment in time, we haven't had a full week to just not worry about games, to only focus on training, and focus on getting back to basics. Arteta hasn't had that time with his men in like over a month now, and we just been 2 to 3 game weeks nonstop. Our injury report shows that. So now being able to take a break for a full week, hit the reset button, and go into a tough match at Everton, that's going to be a big one. But I think if they show me the Arsenal that we saw probably after the first international break, I think this will be what we needed to go on a little bit of a run, create that unbeaten streak that we had prior to losing to Villa. And from there, man, you never know. And we're going to need it because the only thing stopping City from being City is like literally Erling Haaland would have to go down. He would have to get injured or get suspended or just lose form, which is probably not going to happen. The guy's a freak of nature. So one of these very improbable things would have to take place for City to just take themselves out of the title race. So it really will take Arsenal grabbing this by the throat, and we're gonna start to see how possible that is in these next stretch of games, starting with Everton.
Yeah, I definitely get that part. Obviously, there's still games to be played, but that January transfer window is coming in.
Yeah.
If you're looking at any of these teams that are like right now on the outside looking in, uh, what do you think? If you could pick one team, what do they need to get into a European spot? Maybe even contest for the Champions League.
That's a great question. I think, look, bro, I think the one piece that's probably going to move in general, and it'll be who ends up getting him, is going to be Antoine Semenyo. Now, it's crazy how many teams need a left winger. You think about Arsenal, Rodrigo's been thrown around in there, Semenyo's been thrown around in there, other names as well. City, they were pursuing Rodrigo. They were trying to ship out Savinho to Tottenham at one point. Didn't really pan out. There's rumors there. Villa need wingers. Chelsea buy every winger in the world, so you can argue they need wingers for whatever reason. Liverpool, United. There's just like more than a few of the top 7 teams who could use a guy who's prem proven like Semenyo to come in and to really bolster that spot. So I think personally, bro, I hate to say this because I would love him at Arsenal, but I don't think we pull the trigger in January. If we were to get him, it would be in the summer. So I think if someone's going to land him in January, it will be a tug of war between rivals, between City and United, or between United and Liverpool. I think either City or Liverpool will bow out at some point, either due to how much they've already spent or Semenyo just not choosing them. But I think United will stay in that contest for Semenyo. And I think that if they do get him, dude, it's going to be such a letdown because he's such a good player. I rate him heavily. So, yeah, man, I think he's the one player that a lot of teams will be looking at to bolster their attack. He has a release clause, an interesting release clause that can get triggered in the first 10 days of January. The price goes up if it goes beyond the first 10 days. So I'm really curious to see where he ends up if he moves. If he decides to be patient, I think most of the Prem knows that he's an Arsenal fan. So I'm hoping he chooses to be patient, wait for the team of his choosing, which I believe will come knocking in the summer.
Yeah, You're. I think that that's going to be a big game changer, especially like you mentioned, Manchester United. If they're able to land him, that can jump them up from six all the way to not even have to worry about the fifth place spot. Just get that fourth place spot ahead of Chelsea, which once again they're very much in it. Now, do you see a team in any as far as like Champions League goes that you feel could drop off?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say Villa, and I think it's easy to say Villa because they just don't have the depth of talent and resources that the other teams have right now. Their ceiling right now is like third, second on the craziest win streak Unai Emery's been on since he's been in the Premier League. So at some point, that streak will have to come to an end, and I'm wondering what happens, what it takes for that to end, and how they bounce back from that. he doesn't have quite as many tools to call upon. So I think that'll be very interesting. Also, man, I think Chelsea should be pushing for second this year. They really should. I don't think they'll get it.
Mm.
I think Chelsea feels like Arsenal from 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago, where they could get up for the big games, make all the fan base believe that they have a real shot at pushing not just for top four, but a title. But then they find a way to lose to, teams in the middle of the pack that they really have no business losing to, right? How is Leeds getting a result over you, right? How is um, who else they draw to? They drew to Arsenal, but there was another one, Bournemouth. How is Bournemouth getting that type of result? You guys don't generate much of anything. I know Cole Palmer wasn't in that game, but like it can't be so reliant upon one player when you've bought so much talent over the last few years. So and spent a lot on some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Caicedo, Enzo. Enzo's another player that I feel like what do they say? He's proper Chelsea, but bro, to me, he's a worse version of some of their best midfielders who've come through. Like he's not worth the price tag up to, in my opinion. He's a very basic midfielder. I don't think he offers a ton. Like he's not bad, but he's not great, And for 100
Mm-hmm.
million, definitely not worth that. So I think between Chelsea and Villa, that'll be a very interesting race, especially if Palace continues to go on the run that they're going on, continue to get points wherever they can. And if Man United decides to start stepping shit up, if they sign players in January and start going on a run, keep in mind they were almost up for a 5 game winning streak today if it wasn't for Bournemouth, that crazy 4-4 match that some of us saw today. United could creep in, Palace could creep in, Liverpool can decide that they're champions again and start kind of moving back up the table. Chelsea and Villa probably have the most to be worried about.
Yeah, I could definitely see that part. Yeah, I think you made it right. Aston Villa and Chelsea, I think, which I mean, I'm all for, especially if we could see some young kid with depression. So I'm all for that. Just because I said Chelsea is going to be a good team doesn't mean I want them to be a good team.
Fair. I
So,
like that. I like that.
but yeah, that's the Premier League. Jose, is there anything else you want to add on to the Prem before?
No, man, just please, Arsenal, please do it, man. Do it. I've waited long enough, bro. I've not seen this team lift the Premier League since eighth grade. I'm 34 years old. I would love to be able to see my team lift it in a very different era of my life. And not just that, bro. I think we're also potentially in line for the Champions League. So a lot to play for. I just hope Arsenal finally gets it over the line. So fellow Arsenal fans, keep the fingers crossed, keep the faith alive, man. We got a big second half of the season coming.
Who is that guy?